Hi everyone, my name is Julia Mumby and I'm Senior Subject Leader at Nottingham Trent University, and one of the things that I do is I oversee the Access to HE courses that we have. So I'm going to talk to you today about the Access to HE and land-based studies. It's a great course, it provides lots of progression routes into different areas for land-based degrees. The subjects I teach on the Access to HE course are the science modules, of which there are 4, and I've also previously taught study skills as well, and also the animal science and animal management behaviour modules. So the modules that you would expect on the Access to HE land-based course across different providers will consist of some sort of core modules, and these will include study skills. And study skills is a fantastic module that you'll see across Access to HE courses, that students, once they have progressed onto a degree, consistently provide feedback to me that it's one of the most valuable modules. And the reason for that is because it provides the student with all the skills and knowledge that they need in terms of how to structure assessments and to undertake things such as referencing. So it really supports and underpins their skills as they progress onto a degree. And as part of that, the students produce a portfolio of work. And as part of the Access course, we write our own assignments, and therefore what's nice is we can therefore link the assessments for study skills into other modules and make it very relevant to their course content. Other modules include business, and that focuses on business in the land-based sectors, and so the students have an opportunity to look at how those business feed in and are important, because unfortunately everything's business, isn't it? So there is that element in terms of that. So we need to understand how businesses work within different land-based industries. So the students look at animal-related businesses, horticulture, agriculture, and environmental businesses as well. Another underpinning module is land-based skills. This is a really important module because it provides students with the opportunity to gain practical skills, which for a land-based course really does affect their career opportunities later on. And it also gives them an opportunity to sample different areas of the sector, because they don't just focus on one particular area, they have to sample at least 2 different areas. So for example, it could be that students will study and undertake practicals in agriculture and animal, or equine and wildlife conservation, and those sorts of mixes. So it really provides students with the opportunity to build those practical skills, which allows them to apply theory to practice as well. The science modules really do contain a lot of underpinning content which will support a student moving into a science-related degree. So there are 4 science modules in total. These cover biological systems, lab skills, so the students have the opportunity to develop their practical skills within a laboratory. It also looks at biochemistry, and then what is normally one of the favourite modules is the breeding and genetics module, which includes immunity as well. So there's lots of scientific content there, which allows students to progress onto degrees, for example, in animal biology. There is also a research project module, which again, very, very important, because it provides the students with that opportunity to gain those HE skills to be able to produce a high quality piece of work and foster those independent learning skills that will be required at a HE level. It allows the students to investigate a topic that they are interested in as well, so it therefore promotes that independence too. And you'll find that students undertake such a wide range of really interesting projects. Some will go down the route of looking at, for example, animal behaviour. I've had students who have reviewed things like egg quality and welfare standards for chickens, looked at showmanship and stock judging with livestock. Some students have looked at zoos, others have researched into wildlife conservation. So there's lots of opportunity there for the students to actually develop the areas of interest that are really sort of specific to them as well. In terms of other routes within the course, so you'll find that there are two other modules, and they will consist of, for example, animal science and management and behaviour, which looks at very much underpinning ethics and legislation and caring for animals. But there are other routes within the land-based course as well. So, for example, there are agricultural focused modules, there's environment focused modules and equine focused modules, as well as horticulture. So there's that opportunity for students to be provided with the skills to study in those different sectors, which will then help them to progress on to the degree that they are interested in. In terms of assessment methods, the land-based studies course includes a range of assessments. So, for example, last week we were undertaking a debate for the Animal Science and Welfare unit, in which students were debating the efficiency of legislation, and they really enjoyed that assessment method, but it also required them to do lots of research to support their opinions and backgrounds, so it helps them to develop that critical analysis and thinking skills. They do undertake lab reports alongside their science modules. There are presentations, there are several essays as well to build those report writing skills, and then there's also some examinations linked to science as well. So you'll find that they develop a range of assessment methods that they can then use within HE as well. And what's nice about the exams is they will experience exam questions that can really sort of mimic a higher education exam question. So they're gaining that experience as well as knowing that they're meeting the assessment criteria for the course as well. In terms of common pathways, obviously the land-based course is going to lead on to land-based degrees. So, for example, it might be that a student wants to progress into an agricultural degree. It could be that they want to go on to something like zoo biology or zoology, animal behaviour and welfare, animal biology, and those kinds of sorts of courses, equine management, wildlife conservation. You'll find that those are the kinds of courses that students will use this course to apply for. In addition, we have lots of people who move into veterinary nursing from the Access to HE land-based course because of that underpinning science content, and we have had some students who have successfully applied to veterinary medicine as well. So in terms of the HE pathways, there's quite a big variety. We've also had a couple of students who have decided that actually they really want to go a little bit broader than the land-based studies route, and they've thought more about that biological and bio-veterinary science route, and they've actually ended up moving on to a biology-related degree. So although the focus is very much land-based industries, what's nice is because of that science content, it still gives people a progression opportunity if they think, actually, I really want to study core biology. We have had people move into those areas as well. In terms of career routes, I think based studies course has that element of practical in it as well that really helps to build up those industry skills, and you'll find that some students will also undertake a work experience alongside their course to really build up their portfolio and CV, and some students progress on to postgraduate study and are very successful and move into masters and PhDs. Some students go from their degree into industry as well and gain relevant employment that has then followed them through from their access course. And in fact, some students can also actually gain some experience on the access course, which they can then continue alongside within their degree. So we've had some students who have gained placements at zoos and continued that placement throughout their degree. So there's opportunity there for students to build up that practical experience alongside their studies. I think in terms of advice for an access student, so if you're thinking about coming onto an access programme, because it's a year-long programme, it is quite intensive. You'll always find that providers are very understanding that it might be the first course that you've studied in a long time, and it might be a bit of a daunting experience. So I think that one of the things that's lovely about an access course is that because there's that study skills there, it supports you and builds you back into education. I think in terms of building up those skills before you start an access course, any recommended reading around the subject, I would get in contact with the provider, with the college who you want to apply to the course for, and ask them for a reading list, because I'm sure they'll be happy to provide you with that. And that's something that we would do, and it can help to therefore build your confidence in the subject area. I think also the biggest thing is to think about your personal circumstances. So, for example, plan around your finances and childcare and things like that, because it is a course that is quite demanding. So you need to be able to put that time aside for it. And you also need some time for you as a person as well. So if you're going to be managing work and an access course, you need to put some personal time aside as well. So it's a very, very rewarding course, and it will give you the skills and the opportunities to progress into a degree, but it requires that commitment there to be able to progress and get the best out of it as possible. So that gives you an overview of the land-based skills course and the land-based studies course, and I hope that you choose to progress onto it and you enjoy your studies. Thank you.
Right, so hello everyone, my name's Sam. I am the course lead for the Access to Higher Education Computing course with Truro and Penwith College. I've been course leading for about 5 years now, and I've been teaching for 6. So, the whole point about Access to Higher Education is it prepares you for the future, and it prepares you primarily for higher education. Specifically computing, it's a computing-related industry. Lots of people don't understand actually how massive a range computing gives you. For example, we've had students every year come through and go and do quantity surveying because the skills they learn and need are on the access course to give them that innate advantage when they go on to university. But specifically, if we look at the subjects I kind of teach, so you get a better idea of what you can expect to do. I personally teach the cybersecurity modules, hardware and software, HE study skills, critical thinking, and exam techniques and practice. So really what each of those are, like cybersecurity, it's a really important topic in today's modern environments. We're going to be seeing more and more of this as it comes through the news, of cyber attacks, of also failures of our own defenses. For example, Yahoo, when they had their email breaches, they left the door open for so long, they had another attack. We look and analyze those weaknesses. We look at how, as an industry, we can help build upon them and reinforce and secure our own practice, our own networks, protect that critical data. With things like hardware and software, though, we actually take a step back. We look at the bare metal. So we see how a computer works. How does it actually fundamentally work? From when we press the power button to all the way to logging into the operating system, we need to see exactly how it works. We build our own computers, we install the operating systems, we do everything we can to make sure that you as a student can go into any kind of place and build your computer or repair a computer or troubleshoot common faults. A major part of it as well is working with people, because the IT crowd had many things that they did perfectly right, and one of them is the social skills of IT people at times. We need to work with the client, and understanding how we communicate with that client is a critical part of what we do in IT. A major part of our HE study skills side of it, in terms of how we communicate, is working on that bigger picture. So we actually bring people in, we have a chat with them, we see in terms of industry specifications, what they expect us to do. How do we then relate back to what the client is asking you to do? How everything we do really relates back to what the client is asking for versus what we can deliver. In terms of the raw HE study skills, one of the major things we look at is how to research. So IT as an industry, fantastic for researching. It gives us access to so much data anywhere we want. And that could be quietly Googling something on our phone when we on a tech support job and we don't know the answer immediately. It could be writing an essay. But a major part of our HE study skills is research and how to effectively research online when there's so much data. And you hear in the news all the time about fake news, but also how we can interpret that data, how we can kind of cut through some falsehoods or some slightly less than honest approaches at times. And we can look at how we can actually extrapolate that useful data from it, which kind of leads into critical thinking, which is, well, how to think critically. The last thing we do, well, last thing I personally teach, is exam techniques in practice, which literally is how to sit an exam. Because a major part of the people always forget, they always think exams are these horrible, scary things, but in fact, they're not actually that bad. Because at university, you've got to remember, the lecturers will write the papers that they're giving to the students. So it's a case of learning who your lecturer is, learning what kind of questions they ask, learning how they expect an answer to be built. We look at how to prepare, how to revise. There are different kinds of exams we take, like an open book, a closed book, a previewed exam. We look at how they differ in each stage. I've covered a lot of the topics we actually cover. However, there are a couple of things that I do need to point out, like in terms of computing as an entire industry or computing as a course. Most of the courses do look at things like pen testing. They look at the law and legislation behind IT. We have a look and build upon that client relationship, how to build that forwards, how to get, well, an effective outcome. We look at how to research, like I said before, from the IT professional's perspective. One of the major things we do, though, with other units, things like spreadsheets, like things like web design. We look at the bigger picture, look not just on my side for the hardware and software and the cybersecurity, but we look at things, like I said, spreadsheets, web design, programming, using different languages. The whole point of this course, or the whole point of every Access to HE computing course, is to give you the best possible chance to progress onto a university course and have the best chance of just having an amazing first year and leading the pack for the rest of the 2 years, or for the rest of your course. In terms of practical knowledge you actually will gain out of a computing course, well, it's things like how to build a network, how to build a computer, how to install software, how to build a web page, how to test your web page, how to write code, how to debug your code, how to, I don't know, how to do complex formula in a spreadsheet to actually predict results before they happen. We'll look at things like how to secure a network. We look at how to build policies and how those policies then are enacted in a wider system. In terms of the programming, we look at things like white box and black box testing, so different testing methodologies that we use to make sure the code works. In terms of how we assess you, well, on my course specifically, we do things like presentations, research tasks, short form tasks, portfolios, and an exam. Now, in terms of presentation, that's normally done in front of the class or a small group for about 10 minutes with a 500-word supporting paper. Now, we do 2 of them, and that's to help build your confidence. Because a major thing a lot of university courses do ask is that you present things. It's all well and good having the practical knowledge, but if you can't actually tell anyone your knowledge, it's not effective. In terms of the research tasks, they're ones that we give you full control over. So you get given a question, you go and answer that question, you do the best you possibly can in them. In terms of short form tasks, that's just a standard scheduled list of tasks. For example, like detail the components of a computer, or detail how a client could protect their network in my case. Finally, we have the portfolios, which gather together a bunch of evidence that you produced in the units in the year, and we pull them together to really showcase your skills. Finally, we do have an exam. That is for the exam techniques in practice. So oddly enough, we have an exam about sitting an exam, which is perfect because you prepare for the exam and you complete the exam criteria. We have it in a case of its additional knowledge. It's things extra you can do, because to be fair, exams are really important. A majority of IT courses at university will have exams in them. It's very rare to find they don't. But especially, you've got to be aware, like professional certification, things that go beyond just the Access course, do almost always require an exam, not just a portfolio of evidence. In terms of what kind of courses a student will go on to, well, you've got things like computer science, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, software design, but also more unusual ones like music technology. So we've had students come through and have IT-related industries. We've had music technology, we've had quantity surveying, we've had, say, quality assurance, we've had, what other ones have we had? Well, the whole gambit. Like we've had software application, software design, user experience, UI testing. Effectively, any qualification that requires a computer has relevant IT skills that you can leverage out of an Access to HE computing course. It may not necessarily be the exact perfect course, for example, quantity surveying. A lot of things might not be 100% relevant to what you want to do, but it's those fundamental computing skills that help get you onto the course, will help get you onto your degree course, and then help you excel in the first year. As everyone's learning how to use software and install things, you're ahead of the pack. So finally, like, what kind of careers do my students go into, or students in general? Everywhere, literally everywhere. They could be database managers, they could be network managers, they could be consultants. A major point in terms of cybersecurity now in the UK is consultant wages and salaries increasing massively year on year. It also does things like tech support, web design, quantity surveying. If it's a technically related career, access to HE computing will always benefit it. So finally, are there any additional things that I would personally advise you to try and do before starting an access course? Yeah, have a think about what you want to get out of it, not what we as the lecturers or we as the providers hope you will do, but what do you personally want to get out of the course? And email us, talk to us about what you want to get out of the course. For example, if you tell me that you want to do something like cybersecurity, I'll point you towards all the resources that are hosted for free online. I'll point you towards things like immersive labs, where you can go and get a head start on all that during the summer break. A major part of everything I could possibly recommend is talk to us. If you have a passion for computing, if you have a desire to take those computing skills further, you've just talk to us. We will recommend things you can do. Finally, if you're stuck for something to do, take apart your computer, put it back together. Or if you're not that confident in doing so, take the side off, see the components, try and figure out how they all work. And there we go.
Hi, my name's Emily and I'm the Sixth Form Senior Curriculum Leader at Andover College. And as part of my role, I manage the access courses at the college. It's an area that I'm really passionate about, and that's because I myself studied an access course. So when I was in my late 20s, my son had just started nursery. I decided that I wanted to go to college. I hadn't, when I was 16, I decided to go straight into employment, and I studied a social science access course, and it really was the starting point for me. It wasn't just about the academic skills that I learned on the access course, but it was about taking those next steps into going into a career that I wanted to. I then went on to study a psychology degree, worked in mental health, then went on to study a postgraduate certificate of education, and then moved into teaching. But if it wasn't for the access course, I wouldn't be in a job now that I absolutely love. So that's why I enjoy so much managing the access course, because I've been there, I know how it feels. At the college, we offer a range of different pathways, and the two pathways I'm going to speak about today are the combined science pathway and the nursing and healthcare professions pathway. So I'll start with the combined science pathway. So on this course, students sign up for the combined science for a range of different reasons. It really depends on what degree they want to study at university. The clue's in the name. It's an access course and access to higher education. So we're preparing students for that next step, going to university. On the combined science pathway, students will start by having mandatory courses in the three sciences, so in chemistry, physics and biology. They will also study a maths for science unit, because in any of those subjects that you're going to study at university, maths is going to be a key component to them. And then, depending on what the student's interested in studying at university, they can then take optional units. So, for example, if a person is most interested in physics, they might then go on to take the nuclear physics unit. Whereas if they're more interested in chemistry, they might look at the organic chemistry unit. And for those more interested in biology, we'll look at things like nutrition and diet, or anatomy and physiology. physiology or genetics. So there's a real range on the combined science pathway. And in terms of what their students then go on to study, that really depends on what their career goal is. Sometimes we will have students that really want to become paramedics, but maybe the A-levels that they have already taken at college, they didn't take any A-levels in science, and so they don't have enough science credits to be able to get onto a paramedic science degree. So sometimes we have students that will then take the combined science access course to enable them to do that. Other times we've had students that have studied combined science, gone on to vet nursing, biomedical science. We've had some students go into medicine, which is an extremely difficult degree to get onto. So it really does depend on where their interest lies. In terms of the nursing and healthcare professions pathway, this is specific for students who want to study at university some healthcare related degree. That often is in nursing, but that could be in a range of different types of nursing degrees. So some students will be looking to study paediatric nursing, so child nursing. It could be adult nursing, mental health nursing. Another common degree is midwifery. That's become much more popular in the last few years as well. But it can be other more general degrees such as health and social care. If a student isn't quite sure yet, they know that they want to work in a healthcare related career, but haven't worked out in which area yet, they can go for a more general degree. On the nursing and healthcare professions access pathway, you're mainly studying biology units, so that will be things like anatomy and physiology, reproduction, genetics, but you will also be studying a couple of psychology units, and that's because if you're going into healthcare, it's looking at supporting individuals, and to know how to best support individuals and to promote change, you need to understand human behaviour. So it might be, if I'm a midwife, that I'm trying to promote healthy eating, so I need to understand the psychology of human behaviour to try and encourage ladies that are pregnant to eat more healthily, and things like breastfeeding. So there's 2 psychology units. You also do a professional studies unit, and this is because there has been a large amount of research looking at healthcare professions and looking at the skills that are needed. So things like effective communication and looking at compassion. So there's also a unit where you look at the importance of those skills by looking at case studies where they have been lacking and the impact that that's had. And in both paths, an independent project throughout the whole year of you studying on the access course. It's about getting you ready for university, and at university you will carry out your own project, your own studies. So this is about building those foundations to help you. You can pick any topic that you're interested in. That's usually, doesn't have to be, but the student usually picks something that's related to the degree that they're going on to. So we've had some students that are going on to mental health nursing that have looked at the stigma of being diagnosed with a mental health condition. We've had students that are going into midwifery that have looked at the benefits of breastfeeding. So it's really a topic that you're interested in. And then on both pathways as well, you also complete key skills. These are our core skills that are going to help you not only on the access course, but also when you get to university. So that's things like independent research, looking at how to write up a report or an assignment, looking at how to get ready for exams, and looking at how you use research in your assignments and how you reference that correctly, because they're all skills that will be absolutely mandatory at university. So if you can start developing those skills on your Access course, then it's going to put you in a really good position when you start on your degree. In terms of what careers students go on to, well, with the combined science pathway and also the nursing and healthcare professionals pathway, the degrees that they tend to go on to are specific to a career, whether that's in nursing, midwifery, whether that's in paramedic science. And we've had students that have been highly successful and gone on to do masters. They've enjoyed being at university so much that they've actually continued at university. In terms of getting ready for your Access course, I think one of the things to think about is your next steps. And that might seem quite strange in that, well, I'm only just getting ready for college, so why will I already be thinking about university? But where the Access course is 1 year, you'll actually be applying for university in the first few months of studying the Access course. So looking at universities, working out which universities you'd like to go to, looking at what units are going to be studied, that might help you with any optional units that you can pick on the Access course. Also start to read up on the subject. So you can contact any of the colleges that offer the Access course, and they can give you a reading list. And start to read more academic articles, whether that's journal articles, so that you can be prepared for using academic research in your assignments that you start to write. And there's lots of wider reading that you can do. And as I say, or any of the course leaders or the teachers would be happy to provide you wider reading for that. As I say, I loved the Access course, and it really helped me get into a career that I absolutely love doing. It can be a little bit nervous at the start if you've been out of education for a long time, but everybody's in the same boat, and you get so much support from the lecturers and from the other students there, that I would always say, if you're thinking about it and you're not sure, speak to the college, speak to the subject lecturers, try it out, and I'm sure you'll absolutely love it. So good luck with your studies, and I hope it all goes well for you.
Hi everyone, I'm Matthew. I'm a third year psychology student currently. Before this, I was studying criminology and social sciences as an Access course over in Civic College, which I think that's been changed now, but that's what it was back in Essex when I did it. And yeah, it's just nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Matthew. It's really nice to have you here. So I'm just going to go through a few questions. So first of all, what motivated you to do the Access to HE diploma?
I think that kind of idea goes back to when I was 18. I was studying an accountancy course, and I really didn't like it at the time. So I took a year out. I had to think about what I wanted to do long term. And eventually I started getting into some of the ideas of criminology and nursing, and I tried a few different things before taking the Access course. But when I had the chance to take the Access course, it kind of enticed me how fast-paced the course was, because I could study criminology, sociology, and psychology all at once and be able to take on university or even a career the following year. And this allowed me to better prepare myself for not only the working world, but also when I eventually went into Anglia Ruskin University.
That's great, thank you. So what did you enjoy the most about your Access to HE diploma?
Oh, I did enjoy the variety. Studying psychology, criminology, and sociology, there was quite a bit of there was crossover in each of the subjects, but there was also quite a lot of variation as well. And it gave me quite a lot to learn. I also like the fact that when I was studying, it wasn't like when I was at school or when I was initially at college, because when you start off at school or when you're first at college, you tend to be with people your own age and they can be sometimes a little bit immature. Whereas being the youngest person in the class, I felt almost at home because everybody else was quite mature as well. Yes, we had a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke, but everybody was dedicated to their studies and wanted to get the best grades possible. And it just felt good to be in that sort of learning environment.
Yeah, there's definitely a change, isn't there, when you go into education as an adult with other adults who are there and willing and ready to go. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And I can even remember the teachers back then treated us differently as well, because again, when I was first in college, they still kind of treated us kind of like children, or not quite like children, but not quite like adults. Whereas when I went back into the Access course, they treated us like full-grown adults. We were talking about general things as well as what we were learning, and it made things a lot easier. And often when we had work commitments as well, they were very understanding as well. So it made things a lot easier and a lot easier to talk to the teachers.
That's great. Thank you. So how do you think the Access to HE diploma prepared you for university level study?
I think it actually prepared me quite well. I developed a number of different skills that came in handy when I first got to university that I may have not learned when I was initially in college. For example, I learned a range of referencing skills, which came in handy when I got onto my psychology, because I'd have to be reading loads of journals and loads of different textbooks and have to be able to add citations and reference to everything. Being able to create almost like a mature study group and to be able to almost bounce ideas off each other and talk about different subjects. And it also, the relationship with the teachers, like I mentioned before, as that changed, that also informed what I did with my lecturers here, because when I came to university, the lecturers once again didn't treat us like children, they treated us like colleagues. So if I had a question with my lecturers, I could bounce ideas off them, and that was similar to when I was on the Access course. If I had an idea, I could bounce ideas off them, talk to them about it, and it was that kind of interesting dynamic.
That's great. Yeah, great. So what are your plans now? So you're doing your third year, is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
So so what are your plans now and after you complete your degree?
Once I finish my degree, I'm going to be taking a year out so I can build on some of my psychology experience. Following that, I hope to build up some money and be able to go into a master's course for clinical psychology.
Brilliant. That's amazing. To go from the Access to HE diploma to potentially doing a master's, that's fantastic to hear. So what advice would you give to someone considering doing an Access to HE diploma?
The first thing that I would advise people going into a higher education diploma is be prepared to set some time aside. It is a very intense course preparing you for university or some careers that you're going to have some time put aside to be able to really study and really get invested in the subject. The other thing that I would also recommend is be prepared to work outside of the classroom. For a lot of my higher education courses, we had lectures and I was able to talk to the teachers, but I also had to do a lot of research and a lot of reading outside of lectures as well, and even come in on days when I didn't have lectures just to be able to work on assignments in peace. And some days I would sit there from like 9 o'clock in the morning till like 3, 4, sometimes 5 in the afternoon, just writing assignments. I may take like a 10-minute break for lunch, but that was pretty much my entire day.
Wow, commitment.
Commitment on these courses.
Definitely. But it's all worth it.
Definitely.
So finally, my last question for you, Matthew, is if you had to summarise your experience of the Access to HE diploma in just one word, what would it be?
I'd say interesting, just because of, again, how varied it is and how intense the course is, but again, how different it is from normal college as well.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you. And thank you for taking part in this and sharing your experiences and advice to any potential students. And I wish you all the best in your final year and whatever else this journey takes you toward. So thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.